Paisley was walking through the woods, afraid because she was alone. She felt cold and tired and hungry and just wanted to get home. She kept thinking she heard something, but each time it was nothing. She felt like her imagination was running wild. The air got colder and she kept walking, listening to see could she hear anything. She wondered, was she alone in these woods? She took a rest. She was tired of walking, but she knew she just wanted to get home, so she didn't rest for long before she began to walk again. Suddenly she heard something this time. She stayed quiet, hoping that whoever it was, or whatever it was, wouldn't hear her or see her. Once again, it turned out to be nothing. She sat down. She was so tired and wished she was at home in her bed cozy. As she sat down, she listened every time she heard anything, even a bird chirp. She listened intently. She thought someone else was there with her. She could feel it. Suddenly, as she got up, she froze. She knew this time. She wasn't imagining anything. There was a man walking. He was real because she could see him right in front of her, but thankfully he couldn't see her. She froze, hoping he wouldn't see her. He was just about to pass the tree she was hiding behind. As soon as he passed, she jumped out and bit his neck, tasting his blood, and thankful she had her taste of blood tonight. Now finally, she can go home. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Sam was living his life happily up to the age of 16. He then thought he was having hallucinations and felt like he was having some sort of breakdown. But what he really was going through is the truth of reality. He doesn't know, is he the only one in the world with this? I couldn't say it's a problem, because it's a gift and a curse what he has. What he has tapped into, for some reason, is what no one actually can. Sam has discovered that he has slipped into different realities many times, in alternate universes. But the thing is, this is nothing special. This happens us all, but we are not conscious of it. Let's say we do slip into another reality, then we are not conscious of it, we have no memory of it. But the difference with Sam is he does. He has memories of different realities of his own life. He knows he is a very talented basketball player in one reality. He is in a jail for juveniles in his next. He never really knows when he is going to stay in a certain reality for more than a few months, because his time slips are fragmented. He doesn't actually remember all of the realities, of course. He bounces back and forth, but not every second. Maybe he does, but those memories don't come true. Just some. It is driving him crazy. He wondered what would happen if someday he died. In reality, would he come back alive? One day he found out. He was walking down the road and was preoccupied, trying to figure out how he wouldn't drive himself completely insane when a huge truck ran him over and killed him instantly. He woke up and wondered was he in another reality, but had discovered that he was in heaven. It was all white and it couldn't be anywhere else. He was sorry to be dead, but very happy to be in heaven, and thankful that he wasn't going to slip into another reality. Suddenly he had a voice in his head tell him that there was one more reality waiting for him, and that would be it. That would be the last one. He was thankful that he was going to get his life back and be able to live like everyone else. When he slipped into the final reality, he felt hot and screamed in agony, realizing he was in hell. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Driving without a license is amazing, and I wish I had done it a long time ago. I had lost my driving license due to reckless driving, and I had to redo my driving lessons. I couldn't be bothered doing my driving lessons all over again, as I was short on money. It seems like everything is coming on top of me. One day I had to walk in the rain, as I didn't have a car anymore, and my financial situation had worsened, as I couldn't even afford driving anymore. Then one day somebody borrowed me their car, as they saw me walking in the rain. This person is my neighbour, and he asked me about my car, and I told him everything about me losing my licence and not having any money. After hearing that, my neighbour suddenly wanted me to drive his car, and he wanted to sit in the passenger seat, but said that because he had a driving licence, it would stop me from experiencing great things if he was to be in the car. I started driving his car, and I noticed the rain never touched the car, and nor the winter cold air ever froze the car, because I didn't have a driving licence. When I hit someone, I thought I had killed them, but then they got up and they said to me, "Because you were driving without a licence, I am still alive." And she walked off. I couldn't believe it, and it felt good to drive without a driving licence, and I felt no road rage or even sleepiness. Even if I did purposely fall asleep at the wheel, any person I had hit and killed, they weren't dead, because only drivers with licenses can only kill people. I never knew the benefits of driving without a license, and I wished I could have done this years ago. When I drive through haunted roads and creatures of the night stop and stare at me, they don't dare cross the road when a driver without a license is driving through. It terrifies them, and when I hit my car against another car who has a driver with a driver's license, it is instantly their fault, and only they sustain injuries and consequences of the car crash. Whenever I run through a ghost or a dead body, both of them become part of the living. Driving without a license is amazing. I still get chased by police, and I guess they don't want people knowing the great benefits of driving without a license. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Jim was a drug dealer who sold all sorts of different drugs. He sold everything from crack cocaine to heroin to Molly. He had different addicts queuing up for him every day. Jim used to have different couriers carry the drugs for him, and sometimes he used to have kids carry the drugs because he would know if they were caught, they would be underage and not get arrested. He used the ones he knew that their parents didn't worry if they were out late, etc. One day Jim sold heroin to a known witch's son. Sheila was horrified when she walked in on her son Jasper after overdosing with a needle sticking out of his arm. She instantly cast a spell on Jim the drug dealer. The next day, after each one of Jim's customers got high, Jim felt the effect of the drug they took. It went on for a few different customers of his. He kept getting higher and higher, until eventually he died of an overdose. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. White walls all around. It almost looked like a hospital. It was clean. White tiles, white sink, white walls, and the roof was white. Since the earliest of times, white has been associated with purity and innocence. Then again, asylums are generally white, and they reflect the exact opposite of purity and innocence. Instead, those white walls hold the mentally insane, those that are not of sound mind and are a danger to themselves and others. The irony of the contrast between the two varying white rooms is ludicrous. He looked into the mirror. Deep brown eyes gazed back at him. The freckles surrounding his nose looked as though God himself spread flakes on his face to create him. His brown hair sat atop his head, unkempt. He scratched his head to cure a sudden itch and continued to stare at himself. His reflection stared back, unmoving. He opened the faucet and let the cold stream of water pour into the sink. After a moment he cupped his hands beneath the water and scooped what he salvaged in his hands onto his face. Some of the water splashed onto the floor. He didn't seem to notice. He stood there for a moment more, face dripping with water, still staring into the mirror. What he saw disgusted him, and he washed his face once more, almost as if he was trying to wash his very skin off in the hope something more appealing lay beneath the first layer. He opened the medicine cabinet and slowly extracted a small box. He set the box on the sink and opened it. He removed a single shiny razor and placed it beside the box. He returned the box from whence it came and picked up the razor once more. He turned it in his hands thoughtfully, not diverting his gaze from the mirror. Razor in hand, he rolled up the sleeve of his long-sleeve black shirt that he had worn to both parents' funerals. The thought crossed him that both his parents had since departed this world, but not a single hint of emotion prevailed from this morbid thought. He glanced at his now exposed wrist and back to the razor. The moment the blade touched his skin, he drew in a quick, sharp breath. The icy feel of the metal made him hesitate for a moment. The razor shimmered in the artificial lighting of the fluorescent light bulb hanging directly above him. He put the blade down and sat on the end of the bathtub, head in hands and breathing deeply. He glanced at the weapon of self-harm and then at his wrists. Then back to the sharp, unforgiving steel he had placed on the edge of the sink. He wondered how it would feel to cut so deep the blood poured out of his sliced wrist, to see his blood spill and cover everything around him. The thought of blood made him smile slightly, ever so slightly. It was but merely a wisp of a smile, if even that. He liked blood. The thought of blood made him think of the time he took the life of a stray cat he had lured into his home, how it had purred contentedly while he had petted and stroked it, followed by the hiss of terror it let loose when he squeezed and bit into one of its ears, bit so hard he felt the cartilage crunch under the pressure of his teeth, but not before his teeth had ripped into the skin. The blood that spewed from the missing cartilage crunch under the pressure of his teeth, but not before his teeth had ripped into the skin. The blood that spewed from the missing appendage had excited him, and he laughed ever so sweetly at the sight of the feline's ear he had spat on the floor. The sounds the cat made were otherworldly, and one can only imagine the pain it was in after having an ear forcibly removed. He held onto it tightly, so tight it had become so breathless the sounds of agony had simply faded into desperate attempts to draw even breath to sustain its miserable life. Still chuckling softly to himself, now covered in the blood of the cat, he reached into his pocket and brought out the Swiss Army knife he'd accumulated through less than desirable means. He looked at the blade after opening it, marvelling at the craftsmanship behind making such a beautiful, smooth and sharp blade. His thoughts made their way back to the cat, and he turned the cat onto its back, lifting its head to expose the throat. With a slow, precise movement he had practiced in his head, he drew the blade deep and across the exposed neck of the cat. He sliced deep, but not deep enough to sever the head. All sounds and movements the cat had been capable of carrying out ceased immediately the moment the knife penetrated and severed the blood transport systems. The blood that resulted brought a magnificent and eerily beautiful smile to the boy's face. The blood sprayed him and the surrounding vicinity, but that did not faze him. Instead, he hoisted the cat up and shook it violently in an effort to see just how much blood he could extract from the deceased animal. That was but the first of many animals that met their end at the hands of the sadist. He picked the blade up again, a glimmer of excitement in his eye as he pressed it to his wrist. He shuddered as the cold steel touched him, just as he had done to that cat. He pressed deep and hard and drew the razor in a swift upward motion. The cut was thin, as he was using a new sharp razor, but the pain was intense. He felt as though someone had set fire to his wrist. The blood was little at first, and came out slowly, but as he set the razor down, he noticed the floor beneath him was covered in blood. His hand could not be seen beneath the blanket of red that now covered it. The blood would not stop pouring forth from his self-inflicted wound. He had cut too deep. He knew something was wrong the moment he set the razor down. With each bit of blood that escaped his body, it seemed to take with it an incredible amount of his energy. He slumped into the bathtub, blood beginning to puddle in it. His eyes fluttered open after having closed for a stint of time. He tried to raise his hand, but found he could not. Blood was all he could see now. It was everywhere. The bathtub seemed to be filling with it as it continued to pour from his wrist. He couldn't seem to keep his eyes open. They closed. He tried to open them, but found he could not. He could feel the darkness beginning to take him. He wanted to fight it, but his life force had been sapped with the immense outflow of blood. He decided the best thing to do would be to accept it. Eyes closed, he tilted his head back and did not even feel it hit the porcelain tub with the force it did. He couldn't feel anything now. It began to almost feel euphoric. He felt disembodied. Nothing mattered. All that existed was the darkness. He wanted the darkness, and the darkness wanted him. It needed him. The darkness took him, and he went, with a smile on his face. He liked blood. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. It was winter break for Michael, and he was looking forward to visit his grandma. His mom was dropping him off, and it was a long journey across state to her house. Michael loved the idea of being able to roam the farm, etc. Even though the weather would be cold, he would still enjoy walking through the fields. It started to snow heavily as they were driving to his grandma's house. When they arrived, his grandma Julie greeted himself and his mom with a huge smile. They sat together in the kitchen for about an hour, drinking hot chocolate before his mom went home again. Michael was staying for 2 weeks. Michael and his grandmom were watching TV when he spotted 2 dolls. He knew that all ages liked dolls, so didn't think anything of it, but something about them looked a bit creepy. He got a start as a girl who was missing came on the news, and she struck an uncanny resemblance to the doll that was perched just over from them. His grandma changed the channel fast and asked Michael would he like to watch a movie and have some more hot chocolate. Michael watched TV with the hot chocolate a while later, but couldn't get the spooky idea out of his head that his grandma's doll was exactly like a clone of the girl who was on the news and was missing. That night he was in bed, and it was late. He couldn't sleep. He heard a noise from the attic and knew that he couldn't sneak up there if his grandmom was there. So he waited until she went to the store to buy groceries. When he went up there, he saw 4 different dolls, 3 girls and 1 boy. He got out his phone and with some quick research realized his fear was right. They were the missing kids. He wondered why in God's name did his grandmom make dolls of missing kids. Then he noticed a page in the ground, and when he picked it up, he froze in fear when he read on it, "Spell to turn humans into dolls." He rang home right away and explained to his mom, but his mom said to him it was crazy to believe his grandmom turned those kids into dolls. That is when Michael stopped speaking, as the phone dropped out of his hand as he shrunk in size, while he was being turned into a doll. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content.